Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. I'm Representative David Litvack, House Minority Leader. Pleased to be joined by my counterpart in the Senate, Minority Leader Senator Romero, and Stephen Schubach, as well as former Salt Lake County Auditor Jeff Hatch. We are bringing all of you here today to announce that the House and Senate leadership are requesting the help of our business leaders, our business community, and community leaders to take a closer look at DABC. We're all aware of the previous audits. Senator Romero is going to address some of that. But we think that this is a problem that's been created by government, has been too partisan, too political, and cannot be solved by government alone. And it's high time that we have a fresh set of eyes take a look at this and provide back to us some recommendations, very high-level recommendations, looking at broad policy issues and best practices, aimed at giving us an outside perspective, a different perspective than we feel we have had on this issue. The impact and the issues regarding DABC are wide-ranging, from liquor licenses to the role of the DABC Commission, the impact and the funding of our education and where the state funds go, to the issues of regulation and distribution. These are very important issues to the state of Utah and, of course, our budget. Because, again, we feel that this has been treated in a vacuum of government and politics, we feel it's critical that we have this outside help. Also very important to us in this process is the public participation. So before we are done today, I'm going to give everyone an email address that they can give comments to this. While we're asking the business leaders in our community and the community leaders to look at this and provide these high-level recommendations, we are begging for public participation. We need that to make sure that as we come into the 2012 general session, we are well prepared for making the right types of policy decisions of what is in the best interest of the state of Utah. And with that, I'd like to turn a few minutes over to Senator Romero before we turn some time over to other guests.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Representative Litvack. And let me just say that we understand that there's also an audit that's going to be provided, or excuse me, it's a business plan that's going to be presented in Business and Labor. It's a report that was commissioned over a year ago so that we could determine how to, in fact, work on the retail operations at the DABC. And so we are going to ask our Blue Ribbon panel to evaluate that, participate in a review of that, and then to make additional recommendations. And so what we want to stress is that this is a real problem that stems in our state government. It's a problem that obviously has a lot of responsibility in the executive branch of government. It is where a lot of these oversights have been provided, a lot of confirmations on commissioners and the engagement in the policy discussion have stemmed from. So, you know, we recognize that certain individuals are more responsible than others, those specifically at the DABC and its oversight. But we also recognize that the governor has a role in making sure that state departments are running effectively, that there isn't loss, that there isn't corruption as there appears to have been in this particular department. So we recognize that the audits have presented some challenges in our state. We recognize that there needs to be some corrections made, and we are sending a letter to the governor to that effect. Again, encouraging more private sector participation, fuller recommendations and review, and ultimately a restructure and a commitment to the state of Utah and its citizens. Let's remember that the DABC is a $300 million operation. It is a very significant part of our state budget. It's a very significant part to the community and a service that is provided to the community. We think that the outside perspective offered after the conclusion of the review of the retail operations and by our Blue Ribbon panel will really allow for best practices, and we've invited them to give us their recommendations before the beginning of the next legislative session. So thank you for your interest, and with that, I'll ask Jeff Hatch to offer any comments he may have in his roles.
If I could just say one thing. Who's not with us here today, who has also volunteered his time and will be a part of this effort, is retired Major General Peter Cook. Unfortunately, he could not join us here today, but he will also be a part of this panel that we have asked for assistance. So, Jeff?
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in this process. As has been stated, the Division of Alcohol and Beverage Control is one of the largest Utah retailers, if not the largest locally owned retailer in the state. It's a very major business operation, and unfortunately the current structure of the commission and the management of DABC has not been effective in running a very successful business with the franchise they have from the public and the legislature to run this business, as Utah is a control state for the sale of alcoholic beverages. I'm looking forward to being able to attract others who are experts in retailing, who can help support our evaluation and make sure that the right government structure helps support good management of this business. It's critical for our state budget, as you've already heard, and to the extent Utah maintains a control state status, it's critical for the public at large that this be run in an effective way. Peter Cook is a fellow I've worked with before in the past. I know he's dedicated to make sure this process works well, and I'm delighted to be able to help him out on this committee. Thank you.
Yes, and I'm Stephen Litvack, president of Standard Optical Company, and we're celebrating our 100th anniversary this year. So as a retailer, I think I bring a lot of expertise and experience to this committee to help with what we would call key performance indicators and how best practices can be utilized to see if there aren't some efficiencies to be made. I also think it's important to note that business leaders like myself have a very keen vested interest in the success of the DABC. And from that standpoint, our public education, and I think the more that you can involve business leaders in assisting government and using their expertise, the better the government will have and the more efficient and effective some of the departments can be. So with that, I'm honored to be a part of this committee and hope that we can help them to become very good, efficient retailers, and that it'll only go to serve the people of Utah. Thank you.
Thank you. So, one, I would like to thank Mr. Litvack and Standard Optical for these great frames that allowed me to see you today, and ask for his apologies for missing my appointment on Saturday.
To bring that up.
The website, or I'm sorry, the email address that we would love to have public comment at is comments.utah, spelled out, U-T-A-H, dems @gmail.com. Along, again, with having input from the private sector, we think that this process will only be enhanced by public participation and comments from the public. So with that, I'd love to take any questions that you may have for a few minutes before we head off to committee.